Hello, everybody. Welcome to our fall trail riding safety seminar. This is Sergeant Jessica McNally from Cleveland Metro Parks, and she's here to present to you guys.
Well, thank you. Hopefully this is everything that you guys want, because it's a beautiful day, and I'm sure most people would rather be outside than in here, so I appreciate it. But anyway, so from the Cleveland Metro Parks, and I feel like these are fresh faces. So how many people have I seen before at one of my, recently, like within the year? Okay, all right, okay, perfect. Well, welcome. Well, this is good, because one thing I get nervous about is sometimes some of my information will overlap, and I don't want to bore anybody. So I want to make sure that what I'm, sharing with you guys today is more relevant and new for what we're doing. So, trail safety, I mean, number one, we talk about that a lot. So I kind of feel like I have a different perspective on it, especially just being with the mounted unit, and, whether it's trail safety, whether it's safety driving somewhere, whether it's safety on patrol, like safety. And there's a lot of components that go into that, so that's sort of what I want to discuss with you guys today. But also, kind of get an idea, like, who am I, what have I done? I was a person that had 0 horse experience. I had no idea what I was getting into. I say this with love, you guys are crazy. Because if I knew how much blood, sweat, and tears would go into owning horses, working with horses, I don't know, when I was 25, if I would still be doing this today. If I knew everything, but I went in blind, and I'm like, oh, this is going to be great. Like, this is like what you see on TV, and it was a far cry from that. But I can tell you now, fast forward 16, 17 years working with horses, I wouldn't trade it for the world. But the dedication and everything that you guys put in, like, hands down is amazing. You just don't see that. So as far as us, Protect, Serve the Park, we are rich in history. So the park was established in 1921 as far as our police agency. We've actually, as far as having horses, 1917. So literally we kind of talk about the horses being the backbone of law enforcement. 100% they were. We can kind of prove that. So, we try to just constantly evolve. One thing I always like to mention is mounted units. I mean, it's a luxury now. It's not a must-have. So we've been replaced. There's drones out there. There's so many other tools that people can utilize. And, things from an agency that we are extremely lucky, and I never forget that. So, we're very lucky to be able to do what we do, bring these clinics, do things like that. But I'm super thankful to the Metro Parks that, we can do this, but we just continue to evolve so we can be important. So a lot of people, they're intimidated by me. They think I'm not friendly. I don't know why this group does not look friendly. Literally, like, I was going through some of our beach ride pictures, and I'm like, I don't know why people think we're not approachable. Like, I don't understand this. So, I don't know, whatever. Now, I did want to kind of touch on, unfortunately, I wasn't able to get these videos to work. However, we're Cleveland Metro Parks. A lot of people mistaken us for the city of Cleveland. No connection, other than the word Cleveland. City of Cleveland, they're awesome. They have their own mounted unit. They are down on the Shoreway. We are in North Royalton, so that's our current home. We've been there for about 10 years now. If you guys want to look this up, the police chase, everyone I think kind of heard about the 2 horses running on the Shoreway. That's sort of what we had there. But I can assure you, our horses are all kept behind, stall gates and out in the pastures, so we haven't had that issue. So, quickly, just some of the things that I want to talk about before we get specifically into trail safety. So what do we do just to be safe? It's all about training. So whether you're trail riding, whether you just have a horse that's out in the pasture, it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, whether you have a 600-pound horse or a 2,000-pound horse, you can still be severely injured. Not to be over dramatic, but you can also be killed by them. So, when we talk about training and things, I mean, it starts with ground manners. It starts with, how do you desensitize your horse? There's so many things that go into that, and it's just as important for us whether we're on a trail or not. So, we attend different training clinics. They're fun. This was a group last year. We go down to Kentucky, kind of work on, safety aspects, things to keep our horses mentally stimulated and just always, ready for that next prize. I say that, and then, the big joke is, like, put a squirrel or something in front of them and your horse is, like, hightailing it. That nearly happened to me last week with, but it just, so we constantly, like, we do take it serious. It's not that we just tell people, like, train, be safe. We try to practice those same things and just really strengthen that bond with our horse, because I think that's the second component. I was just sharing, we're getting a new horse today. It's awesome. He's going to be here at 5:30. I'm pumped. With that being said, though, and he's been trained and he's gone through training, it doesn't mean that if I take him on a trail tomorrow, he's going to be perfect. What it means is that tomorrow and tonight is going to be the first day of building that relationship with him and trust, so that I can, let him know I'm not out there to get you hurt or injured or, any of that. I want you to feel confident with me. So, the same thing that we practice with our guys. No matter what, training to us, again, we implement that all the time, and it's ongoing. So, key thing, a lot of people ask about, training with dogs. We have the luxury because we have a canine unit. There's like the theory, my horse is scared of something, so like let me turn him around, and like we'll just go away from it. We don't really believe in that. It's, let's introduce something to the horse, do it the right way, let them get acclimated. It's very rare. A lot would have to be happening for me to say I'm just simply going to take my horse away from stimulus because he or she doesn't like it. At the end of the day, like, the horse doesn't call the shots, I do. As long as I know I'm doing it appropriately. So we try to make sure that all the time, we're calling the appropriate shots to keep our horse, mentally fit. So a big thing about just safety, know your equipment, know your horse, know your partners. This is really important. And what comes to mind, especially with trail riding, people go out there, maybe they have brand new equipment, but did you try it out in the barn first? Did you? And I say this from experience, not because, pointing fingers at anybody, but like, I've had to learn in 16 years, and I've made a crap ton of mistakes, a lot. And with that, I always have to think, how am I going to improve and make it safer for myself, and what would I tell other people to do? Equipment is key. It's great to have like the $4,000 saddle. It's great to have like the newest bridle. It's great to have this and that. But if you don't know how to use it and you don't use it properly, it's going to cost you probably a little trip to the ER. Knowing your horse and kind of knowing what they're capable of. How many times have we gone, for a trail ride, and we think like, oh, we know this horse, it's great, but then you put it in a situation that's not going to be a win, and it might, cost you an injury or maybe the people that you're with. So it's something to think about. And know your partners. This is key. When I'm riding with people, I want to know what are their capabilities. And are they going to be a safe person to ride with, or are they going to be the person that jeopardizes my safety as far as getting back? So, we do a good portion of trail riding and trail patrolling, I really should put it as, but we're out on bridle trails, but in the summer we're not. In the summer we're hitting, Edgewater, Huntington Beach, all these locations. But if I'm with a group of people or I want to run into trail riders, a lot of times, they'll be like, can I join you on your ride? Often I'm like, thank you, but I'm good, because I know what I'm capable with my horse, and I may have never seen that person. I don't mind stopping and talking for a few minutes, but most of the time, like, I don't want to put myself at that added risk of going with someone who suddenly is like, oh, and it's fun to just canter on a whim, and then they take off down the trail. That's not going to help me any. It's definitely not going to help my horse any. So, kind of just thinking, something isn't right, can't put my finger on it. Again, it's knowing the equipment. One of the hardest things that I think we do, and I know this was my problem for probably the first part of my mounted career, is we don't want to look stupid and we don't want to ask questions. But I can tell you, and I'm going to say this, I started riding English. Someone handed me like a Western saddle, and I'm like, I have no idea what you're going to do with this. I don't know how to prepare the horse. I don't know what I should be checking for. I don't know that. But I have to ask. I have to open up my mouth and say, I'm not familiar with this type of equipment. What do I need to do to make sure that I'm safe out there? So, and secondly, I have to laugh because, new horse, like amazing horse, blah, blah, blah. But yet, you don't really know how that horse works. You don't know its brakes. You don't know its buttons. So every time we get a new horse, there's that learning curve. It's not like day one, yeehaw, let me get 20 of my best pals out there and hit down the trail. Like, even with this new horse that we're getting tonight, we're gonna have a bit of an acclimation period. We want to get him in the arena or safe area and learn and test him a little bit. Like, maybe kind of push those buttons slightly, but where you can also go back and find that positive thing so that horse is like, hey, I was tested, but I got to go back to something comfortable and I wasn't harmed in doing so. And then you also learn. Recently I have a horse that, I've been riding. He's very sensitive, and I've adapted to him because I ride a saddlebred, and my saddlebred's extremely sensitive. I go from the saddlebred to a draft, and the draft is like, squeeze, 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 and I can keep squeezing, you know. Saddlebred, I barely am touching him. I can breathe on him, and he's like, boom, I'm gone. So this newer horse that we have, he's kind of in between. He's a little bit of both, and I've adapted to him really well, just because I'm kind of used to that. But I put a different rider on him, who's not as used to a sensitive horse, and it was a learning curve. You know, it kind of started as like, oh, I don't know if I really like this horse, you know, because I don't know what pushes his buttons and what gets him going, and you know, his control. But then, you know, that rider had to think, and he's an excellent rider. Let me slow down for a minute. Let me like gently ask this horse things, and then like kind of learn together and know like what I'm getting out of the horse. So, you know, again, like know your group. What are they actually doing? Is this like, hey, I want to be safe out there and I'm going for like a nice ride, or do you have someone who's like just, I don't want to say crazy, but like they are not signed up for the same thing you're doing? Skip that. So, you know, for us, again, training is just paramount. Building that relationship no matter what we're doing. This is most of my crew with the city of Cleveland, working some pretty intense protests over the last couple of years. And the one thing that I always bring it back to is like the training is what was able to get us to that level. Just a few more. We were actually at the RNC last year, and there was a shooting. It was actually a Columbus officer that shot someone unrelated to the RNC, but first thing they do is bring in the horses, and it's nice to say, like, with the training and everything that we've done, you know, our horses were capable of doing everything we asked them. So, a couple more. Everyone pretty much, most people know we've worked the Cleveland Cats Parade. So, convention. To me, this is huge. Respect and trust go a long way. Find that balance. So, you know, when you guys are working with a horse and you're trying to figure out, again, like pushing its buttons and what gets it going, it is going to be a balance because it's going to be really rewarding. Two of the horses that we have right now are both under the age of 7 with our agency. Hopefully we're going to have them to the early 20s. Right now it's going to be paramount to go ahead and like develop that relationship so that we're set for success down the road. So I kind of think it's funny. That's not going to be the new horse. I think I was asked if I'll be sleeping in a stall tonight. No, because I want to go home and have dinner and maybe a glass of wine or something. But no, but it doesn't necessarily have to be this type of relationship. But it's just get a good relationship with your horse. You know, if you do, they're going to do anything for you. So, you know, again, kind of think about like what you want from your horse. So when I think about training, and every single day when I go out there, I pick one thing. It doesn't matter what it is. And I also make sure I have the time for it. So I pick one thing that my horse might not be strong with, and I try to tackle that at the beginning of my ride with him. So one of them absolutely hates walking on sewer grates. So I park somewhere where there's sewer grates, and there's something we're going to walk over. Or one of them might not like this. It's all about, like, make it continual, because it is going to be, you guys know, and this is where I give you the credit, this is what I didn't know going into it. This is dedication. This is a lifelong dedication for, you know, the life of your horse. So it's one of those, you know, if you have a horse, please like be dedicated to the fact that you're going to be training it. And people that don't have horses have no idea what we're talking about. You know, they just see like that nice horse walking down a trail or us on patrol, and they're like, oh, like someone trained that horse great for that person. Like, that's awesome. Meanwhile, you're like, yeah, it was me, on top of like everything else that I have to do for this horse. So, so to kind of switch gears a little bit, because I obviously want to make sure that we're touching on the important things for you guys. Keeping yourself safe with one ride at a time. So a little thing that I basically want you guys to think about is, you know, whether or not, now I will ask, is everybody here a trail rider? Okay, do you guys all use the Cleveland Metro Parks? Or like national parks or anything of that nature? So clearly, like, we have bridle trails, and we have them for a reason. We used to have a major issue with people like creating their own trails, like even to the point where they'd come in with like chainsaws, and like this isn't create your own trail day where like we just hack away. This is like there's trails for a reason, and they're groomed for a reason, and they're cared for a certain way to keep everybody safe. So, you know, basically like try to stay on the trail, try to leave it as you see it. I mean, just really, you know, basic things. But at the end of the day, like those that are in the metro parks, we have a phenomenal park system, and we have a phenomenal bridle trail system. You know, if we take care of it, they're going to be more apt to like give us more and keep those nice and take care of them for us. So kind of respect it. The other thing that I really try to stress with people is like share information. If there's dangers out there, educate people, don't enforce. And the biggest example that I want to say with this that we're having issues with is you run into someone, you encounter like a dog off leash or something. Rather than being the person that's going to like start screaming at that person and get into some type of argument, don't worry about that. Like that's what we're here for. Most people, if they're riding in the metro parks, they should have our number to dispatch. The best thing I could say is like make an amazing witness. Get a good description of the person and their dog. And granted, yes, we might be there within 2 minutes. It might take us 10, but I mean, at least like pass that information along and don't jeopardize yourself. People today, and we were just talking about it, like times have changed. People are nuts. And I mean, I hate reading the news, but I mean, you pull up the news and what happened? Like you look at road rage incidents and, people shooting one another over this type of stuff. Like, it hasn't happened, but like the last thing I want to hear about is someone's trying to like yank someone else off the horse because, they're upset about this or that. Like, don't put yourself in that situation, leave it to us. Also being safe, like desensitize your horse to as much as you possibly can. And that kind of goes back to like every day to me is some type of training opportunity. Even if the weather's bad, guess what? It's a perfect day to pop out an umbrella and, do different things with it, twirl it around, get that raincoat, let that raincoat drag on the ground. Even if I'm just like leading my horse on the ground. Like just little things, so don't save it for the day that it's pouring. You're trying to like fumble with your raincoat, and now your horse is taken off because it's never seen it before. Just sometimes the things we don't necessarily think about, and then until it's too late, or you get a new raincoat that's 3 times the size, and it's a completely different color, and your horse is like, oh my, exactly, like, oh, it's not the blue raincoat, it's the bright yellow one. So, and just being familiar with your own capabilities. I mean, we all like to say, like, I've got this, I'm a great rider. I could tell you, it's a lot of learning. I'm still not an amazing rider by any means. Like, I'm still constantly trying to learn and train and do everything I can so that hopefully for the rest of my career, I never want to say, like, I'm so wonderful, because then you kind of like cap out. And I'm not. Like I said, there's so much. This is why I go to these trainings all the time. I always want to make sure that I know my capabilities, but I also know that there's plenty of room to learn and to grow. And then have an emergency plan and proper equipment. So, and actually these forms I'm going to get to after. But anyways, I don't know. Everyone has their own opinions. So I'm not going to like beat it to the ground. I know you guys have an awesome selection of helmets here. For us personally, I've had
and
many
they're on
riders.
sale this week.
Oh, perfect. I've had many riders, and so I train our basic riders, whether they're in training or whether they've been with me for 10 years or 15 years. I've seen people come off horses, and I've had a number of people that have had concussions, that have hit their head. All I can think of is, I already get that feeling in the pit of my stomach when they come off a horse. I can't imagine if they didn't have a helmet on, and now, that's like going to be my last visual of them hitting their head on something. So, I don't know. I have people that have done this and then they retire and then they're like, oh, I don't need to wear a helmet anymore, and it makes me nervous. Like, to me, it's like not wearing a seatbelt or anything else, but obviously you guys make your own decisions. So, so are you prepared for an emergency? So some things that I always like to have. So, for example, like most people, they ride during the day. However, if something happens and your horse gets injured and you're waiting for, a rescue or something like that, there's nothing to say that it's not going to get dark at some point. So whether or not you ride during the day or, around like sunset, I still think like some type of light is great. And I'll show you one of the ones that I keep that is also magnetic, and I have a tether on it so that I almost lost it once. I'm so glad I didn't, because I was at working the Kentucky Derby, and in front of like a huge crowd, I would have been dismounting to get my little light. So tether was awesome. But charge phone, emergency contacts, first aid, and lead rope. So this light, I love it. It's a Guardian light, and there's many different ones that you can see. Yeah. Oh, it's fun. Yeah, you can. You're going to see this. So like if something happens, and there's different settings on it, it's quite blinding. But it's perfect because, something happens and you want to let people know, like, come find me.
And it fits right in your pocket.
It fits in my pocket, or like for me, when I have my vest on, I have the tether attached to it, and I can clip it right onto here. And there's also like a magnetic where there's a magnetic piece. You can attach it to your shirt if you want. These magnets are very, very strong. I did knock mine off, but I was putting on a raincoat, we were walking, we were on the go, we didn't have time to stop. Tossing on a raincoat, stopped raining, went to go peel off the raincoat. light almost popped off, but the tether was there. So if there's something that you wear all the time, you know, and you want to put a tether with it, I don't know if you guys, a lot of people ask me, I'm very happy with this tether for my weapon. So 'cause if anything ever happens, I get dismounted, or there's an emergency, or I pull out my weapon. So for me, when it comes to riding, the more things you can have on you and rely less on your horse. Because at the end of the day, like if you fall off your horse, but you're like, oh, but my cell phone is in there, or my light was in there, or whatever was in there, it doesn't really do you any good when that horse is gone, and then you're like, I don't have anything on me. So I like to have everything attached to my person as much as I possibly can.
What was the brand of that light?
This is Guardian Light. This is Guardian Angel. And they have, now this is more of like obviously the law enforcement version.
Oh.
They have regular civilian ones that are just like this, but they might have like a white light, or like white and green, white and blue. I mean, there's a variety. And then there's just like stationary lights and stuff on it. They have the ratings too, because there's different brightness things on here, but in general, I mean, you can see from quite a distance if someone has this on. Yep, you can get right on Amazon. And now the law enforcement ones that I got, I'll tell you, they were probably about $100. The other ones are cheaper. They last forever. They have a great charge on them, just a USB that you can plug them into. So, love that. You know, there's another like basic thing. All of us ride with whistles. So, you know, for those that ride in the metro parks, it can be very easy. Like even now, it can be very easy to get turned around, not always know your location. And so we kind of do the old school, like, hey, can you hear the siren? And then it's like, oh, hey, can you hear the whistle? So, you know, in that aspect, like, between having a light, between just having, you know, a whistle, I mean, unfortunately, like, you hear these stories sometimes of people that, more so, like, you know, when they're on, like, these huge trail hiking areas where, I mean, they're out forever. Not so much the metro parks, but, you know, they maybe go off trail and they're, you know, 50 feet, 100 feet off, it's real dense, and they totally turn around backwards and they have no idea where they are. So, I mean, just in case, we've had people that have fallen down ravines and everything. It is nice, like, you have a whistle. It is what it is. I think it's great. Getting back to the phones, pretty much, I'm an Apple person, but, like, every Apple phone has an area for you to put all of your emergency stuff in here. And that's also really nice because, you know, because everyone has passwords, because someone gets your phone, they put funny faces and stuff in there, everything you don't want. So we all have passwords. However, at least I know that if something happens to me, someone can get my phone, they can access all my emergency contacts. So, you know, I like having that. I don't want something to happen and then there's always that, well, who do I call? You know, so I set it up in there and I make sure I have a whole list of people from, you know, family to coworkers. And then naturally, not that I ride with it on me, but we have a bunch. Every single one of our trailers is equipped with one of these wonderful first aid bags, and we all got them from Big D's. There's sometimes a couple of miscellaneous things that I sort of just add in there because I like to overpack. I'm great at that. I'm a pack rat. But I try to prepare myself in the sense that if something happens on the trail and I'm going back to the trailer, guess what? Every single person in here is a first responder all of a sudden, and you're tending to your horse. And so a vet could arrive, which could be, if you're lucky, 30 minutes, but ideally 1 to 2 hours. And with a couple animal rescues, the same thing. You know, it's almost 2 hours in before we can get a vet to us. So I absolutely love these. Big D's did a phenomenal job of packing these with like just important things. Oh, well, you did a great job. Because I'll tell you what, I think it was last year or the year before, like, I ended up buying, I think I have 5 of these, one for every single one of our trailer, and then like one extra. And like I said, miscellaneous things, you know, I sometimes add in there. But all in all, like, they're nice. And here's the thing too, like, now I'm not a doctor, I'm not a vet. However, if something happens to me, most of the stuff I can use on myself too, so it's like a 2 for 1. You know, I get cut or something like that, I can easily, you know, I think if there's one thing I added in there, I think duct tape was something. And that's more like all of our horses have shoes, so if something were to happen, I would wrap, you know, their hoof in some duct tape if I needed to or something. If it seems really bad and the nail's questionable, because I'm not going to take any of that out. I'm going to have my farrier to handle that. But all in all, there's really, you know, pretty much everything I need is on there. So another thing that we, you know, try to talk about is making sure that you also have emergency information on everything and anything. So the other thing that we did from here is like basically just had a bunch of tags made, saddles, bridles, and then furthermore, we didn't put the phone numbers on it, but now maybe we should have. Even the saddle pads have like our horse's name on it at least, and most people, you know, will kind of associate by the time they see everything. It's including Metro Park stores. But we make sure at the very least that there's an emergency phone number on those tags, and if something does happen, and here's the thing, let's say like your horse gets away from you, breaks the bridle, takes off, you know, you're hurt, the horse is gone, someone's gonna pick up that bridle, they're gonna see like there's a name tag on here, oh crap, like someone from the Metro Parks must have gotten hurt, and you know, put in that call. Also, you know, if you go somewhere you're not familiar with, for me, I love taking a screenshot of the map that I'm in, because there are certain reservations where the phone does not work, and you know, last minute you're trying to figure out where am I. So Cleveland Metro Parks has a really nice app. It looks like that. For those that ride in the Metro Parks, I highly recommend downloading that app if you're going out to experience new trails. You can essentially view the park that you're going to, but what's nice is it does pick up more of the things that you might not necessarily get on like Google Maps or something like that. It's going to pick up your actual trails. And furthermore, if you really go into the app, it's also going to give you like how many miles this trail is, loops, things like that, parking areas. So I like to just make sure, I mean, again, I've done this a long time, but guess what? Like bridle trails, there's so many of them. There's like 100 miles of bridle trails. I, you know, have had times where I'm just like, let me refresh my memory of, you know, where I'm going. You take that wrong turn off or something, it's amazing where you could end up, you know, when you really thought you were heading somewhere else. So it's a nice app, something I would, you know, consider downloading. Just a little bit more with it, as you see, you know, it'll give you the length. Also, what's nice is it kind of gives you, like, just in general, like, what is the time frame it might take. Now, they're referring to a basic walk. You know, so if you're someone who's like cantering all over the place, yes, it might be reduced, but like you have an average. So you can kind of look at that and think, all right, you know, if I'm out for 4 hours, I definitely made a bad turn somewhere. So, and pretty much, I'm trying to think if there's any like trails that I haven't seen on there, but I've played with the app and I think, you know, it's definitely nice. So, who knows where you are? Where are you riding? For us, we do a lot of solo patrol. So for me, being the supervisor, I always know where my guys are because I put them in their locations. However, even for myself, when I go out, I always make sure everybody knows where I am, because who's to say something won't happen to me? You know, again, like whether we're taking out a new horse or the horse that we're always on, it doesn't really matter, because sometimes, you know, things happen we don't always expect. You know, construction or equipment to be out somewhere, or this or that, or the dog that's off leash. So, you know, let people know, like, where are you? Maybe also let them know how long you plan on being out on the trail. So if there's a certain time, they can at least expect, you know, this person should be back. They haven't. I say I like to have 2 vet phone numbers in my phone. So again, it comes back to their availability. We've been in a couple situations where we're responding to whether it's a horse injury, you know, rescue, and then someone's like, well, I only have 1 vet that I use. And now rather than me trying to help them with their horse, I'm trying to scramble and find like other vets. Like, already just be prepared. I gave a clinic a little bit ago and someone took it as like I'm telling them to have 5 or 6 different numbers. Personally, I'm happy with 2 to 3 because you just never know. I'm not saying go out and have like 5, but have a couple so you have options. Have a backup. Spare key. So we have these lock boxes. They are in every single one of our trailers in the divider, or you can bolt them on. Every lockbox has a trailer key in there. I do not ride with all my keys on me. If something happens to me and I go to the hospital, what is my horse going to do? So, and then my officers are wasting time. So for us, and people are like, well, what about like knowing the code or something? So going back to like my emergency contact list, I usually have the code in there already. So when people pull up, because here's the thing, if they're taking my horse somewhere, I sure hope they've been on my emergency contact list and they're looking that up. For all my officers, we all know what the codes are for this. And this has been great because things happen. We did have, we had an incident a couple months ago. We had other officers that had to come pick up a horse, and at least like, bam, they grabbed the key, they brought the trail over to where our officer was injured at, and the horse, and they're able to do that. So I recommend them. Those are on Amazon too. Maybe about like $40. We just started going to those, I want to say about within like the past year, and they've proved to be extremely valuable. So obviously hay bag, water. You just never know how long you might be held up somewhere if something does happen, especially on the trail. But something I think we were just joking about earlier. Oops. have snacks. Don't be that person that's like screaming at me when I arrive on scene because you're hungry and your horse is hurt and everything. So I always joke, that was at the beach ride, this person brought amazing donuts. It was like a sugar high I've never experienced before, but I did not get hangry that day. And but I mean, we always kind of say that. It's one of those, like, you think you're going out for an hour, but here's the thing, anything can turn that into 5 or 6 hours if something happens out on the trail. So, as far as being prepared, and I sometimes think about my vet because I like her, and I want her to know that if there's an emergency that she can feel comfortable responding. How often do you perform a health check on your horse? So if you're out and about and you want to go ahead and give him or her that thermometer out there by the trailer, like, is your horse going to be kicking, or are they going to be okay? Do you know what their vitals are? Some people, I mean, I know for people that do horse shows, a lot of times, I mean, they're doing them daily. For us, we do them a minimum of monthly, and then this way we always have a gauge on a horse. Like, do some run a little bit higher as far as like an attempt than others, vice versa. So we like to be able to do that, but it also just makes it good so that we have hands on that horse, and that's just part of like the training. Try it maybe in different locations. If something happens and you get into an incident on the trail and you have to get vitals from it, if your horse is only used to, well, all I do is put Buttercup up on the stall and I tie him up and I get vitals there, but he's never had you give him, a thermometer somewhere out in maybe a parking lot or something. Just let him know, like, hey, it's not a big deal. Change the environments, and make sure you can do it quickly in an emergency. So, like I say, make your vet love you, not judge you. So when I call my vet, if something happened out there, I'm already going to have all my information ready to go before I ever make that phone call. And then this way I can, get the best assessment as quick as possible. And how often do you offer a friendly challenge to practice an emergency drill or work with your horse in different environments? So again, getting back to like being safe, with trail riding and things like that. Well, are you ever with someone and you maybe play scenarios out like, well, if this happened, or if this happened, or that happened? Like, practice it. It's, to me, like, it's not silly, it's just being smart, and it's being prepared for, any type of challenge that can happen. I always say this to all my officers, like, every day can be a training day, so kind of play it out. Your equipment breaks, what do you do? Trailer breaks, what do you do? So many different things. So to me, that's just the best way of working with your horse. And then acclimation. So it's not if your horse notices something, it's when they do. And that always is usually what gets us, right? So it's more or less, you can be doing, the same trail that you've done, that you do every day. There's people that get stable somewhere and, 365 days out of the year, that's the only trail that the horse knows. And they love it, and they're probably perfect. And you can probably put the reins down, it's nice and relaxed, until, that squirrel runs across with a little nut in its mouth screaming at you, or the bag goes rolling back. I mean, there's so many different things that can happen. So, even for us, like, not everything's always in the saddle. We do a lot of stuff on the ground too. I do a lot of office work, but if I have some free time to just grab a horse, take him out in the arena, maybe I find like a shavings bag, or I find this, or I find that, like, it doesn't really matter. Just pick anything and kind of work your horse through it. Again, it's about that relationship, right? Like, creating that strong, trusting horse, so that when you are out on trail rides, you're feeling safe. What about loading on and off trailer? And how quickly can you do it? Now, I say this because I've had a couple clinics and I've had a few beach rides where I found out the hard way that the only time that horse has ever been in a trailer is when they've gone to something. And then I'm spending 45 minutes when I want to go back and like help clean up with my guys, helping someone load their horse into a trailer. That might be something to practice before, because now we have to think too, how stressful did we just make this on a horse that's also going to something that obviously he hasn't been to? And now, like, you see the people that are like bribing or yanking, pulling, shoving. My best advice for that, and we talk a lot about, like, again, being safe. Number one, like, pick 1 or 2 people that you trust that will be good to work with. You start getting too many hands in the pot, and now you have 5 or 6 people, well, guess what? There's going to be a lot of energy. And that horse is going to feed off of every ounce of energy. And if you thought you had a hard time before, well, guess what? It's only going to get worse. Another hard lesson that I've learned, and it's, it's things that we learn about, a lot is through experiences, but that's something I'm always, like, trying to just tell myself is, like, all right, take that deep breath, like, pause for a minute. Surprisingly, I'm a very impatient person, but guess what? Like working with these guys, I have to flip that. It's not a time for me to rush. It's not a time for me to be like, I need this right now. There's a time and place for that, and it's like in their job when I'm trying to get from point A to point B and there's an emergency. But for everything else, I always say like everything's in threes. Check everything 3 times. Make sure everything is good 3 times. Like, you know, when it comes to equipment, when it comes to checking my trailer, when it comes to, you know, like anything with the horse, checking their body, I always like, you know, yeah, one time you kind of glance over. Second time, a little bit more thorough. But like that 3rd time, I want to make sure I've covered everything that I need to cover. And then we have little happy horses that are willing to go somewhere. Now I say that, and I talk about trailers. I don't know how many trailers are out there that probably should have never like even been on the road for the past 10 years, but there's people, you have your trailers, us included, like we have trailers, I can tell you right now, 3 of them are from 2 from 1999, 1 from 2000. Now we have maintenance people that, you know, annually check them when things happen. However, it's also my responsibility when I load my horse into a trailer. Not only do I check before loading, I check after loading. I check everything. I check the hookup. I make sure that all my chains are good. I make sure that my trailer is actually hitched up properly. There are times, and it's scary to think this, but there have been times where you know, people think that they've hooked up the trailer, but the hitch is not actually connected to the ball. And all it takes is hitting one bump. And before I came into the mounted unit, this happened, true story. An officer that was in there probably about a year before I came in was driving his horse on 71 in Strongsville, and they hit a bump, and that trailer came off. And it ended up being, because I mean, you know, they looked at everything, and I mean, yeah, there's some issues, you know, with the hookup. The horse, thankfully, they brought another trailer. Horse, they were able to unload it, get the horse into another trailer, but you're not always that lucky. And there was no injuries, and you're definitely not always that lucky. You know, we've had different things happen, but like, so this is a prime one. This is our divider. There's a lot of pressure. Like, I don't know how well behaved your horses are. I'd love to say that ours are angels in the trailer, but guess what? They're not. Because you know what? They're trying to bite each other. They're trying to kick each other. They're shoving each other up against the wall. You know, with their body weight, like they're everything but angelic in that trailer. So it's a lot of pressure on these pins. And we've had a couple dividers that have actually snapped. So like this is the roof of our trailer. That's a divider. And, you know, ultimately, like this is what happened. So kind of even looking here, you can see, I mean, that pin, part of it was still in there. What was crazy about this is like when your divider pin breaks and all of a sudden like there's nothing holding it up, it is harder than hell to get that horse out of the trailer by yourself, because what you really need is someone that's going to like stabilize your divider, and then you're trying to take out one pin. Talk about dangerous. Nothing is worse than standing in the middle, centered in that trailer, holding up your divider while someone's trying to get, now at this point, probably an impatient horse out. Which is, again, like with training, it'd be great if we could tell every horse, like, sit here nicely, but a lot of times when we get back from patrol, like, they know it's dinner time. They know it's, you know, whatever. You know, that's something like we work on, but at the end of the day, like, they're ready to get out. You know, they're like, okay, I know my day's over. So, we had a couple issues, and I mean, our trailers, like the companies had sent us new pins. I mean, it's a stress fracture, basically, that happened. But I tell people, like, have a checklist with your trailer, and annually, just to keep your guys, you know, safe out there. Maybe find a good place that will do inspections for you. So we're, like I said, we're really fortunate with our own maintenance team. But, you know, like personally, I have a camper. Well, I do the same thing with the camper. I have a checklist, and then annually I get it checked just to make sure that everything is good before I throw that out on the road. So be prepared, have a plan, be calm. You have no idea what's going to happen when you guys are out there. This was one of our beach rides. I had no idea that day, going to my beach ride, I was going to have a horse that was going to shock, and now we're trying to figure out how to get it out of the water. And I could tell you to this point, I have complete tunnel vision. Like, I had no idea who was even working with me. I had no idea, like, what was going on outside of, like, just being focused on trying to get that horse out. However, I had a great team, and we have, like, talked about things and what happens in an emergency, that when there was an emergency, everybody kind of just fell into place. We took that deep breath. There was no rushing. Like, believe me, it looks horrible. But again, if you rush into something like that and everybody's, like, clobbering that horse, that's how someone gets hurt. So sometimes, like, if something happens or it goes astray, it's that mental calm down. Now, this is going to be your first beach ride, right, that you're going on? Yeah. Don't worry. This hopefully won't be right. But
You can get a backboard horse
we've had many beach rides, and this is, thankfully, it's only been one. However, you know, it just, kind of shows like things happen and we don't plan for it, but you know, if you do have something that you can say, hey, I've talked about this, or I have a good team, or I have a backup plan, it's amazing like how things come together. You know, same thing here. This was in Hinckley a couple, last October actually. We're getting ready for our beach ride. We were hauling stuff down and we heard a call over the radio about a horse that ended up in a ravine. Thankfully, the lady, amazingly, was completely unharmed. I guess there were 3 people that were riding, and this horse was just not interested in the char anymore. You know, the horse was like, you know what, I want to go back. And at some point, like on the bridle trail, because the bridle trail's here, horse had turned around a couple times and just got a little bit too close to the ravine, and ended up, you know, falling in there. And again, it's, you know, just remaining calm. And this is a perfect example of where we needed multiple numbers for vets, because our closest vet, or the lady's closest vet, really wasn't necessarily available in that first phone call. So we started making other phone calls, and then the vet that I called was like, hey, I can come out, but I'm 2 hours out. Then, you know, thankfully we were able to get another vet there, but you just, I mean, you don't know. So this is where sometimes, like, I'm sure in their head, this is not how they imagine their ride ending, right? I mean, you go out and this is not what you envision your ride looking like. However, if it does happen, what are you going to do to make sure that, you know, you've got, you know, emergency numbers, contacts, and that you can do everything possible to make sure that this horse can get out safe and you make the right judgments. So I just kind of love this. Like, we're super dramatic. We just are. Like, it's what happens, you know. But as far as like our horses, I mean, definitely we want to take care of them. We want to make sure they're good. But yeah, I don't know. Just one of my little crazy telling. So, accidents happen, but planning can often soften the impact. So I'm going to tell you about this. This isn't the first tailgate we lost. We only have one gooseneck. It's the second, and because it's the second and I wanted to plan, I made sure the second one was cheaper than the first one. Hence this nice plastic tailgate. So I will say the officer gave me full permission to use this because it was just funnier than how it went. I'm like, seriously? I'm like, we just got this replaced, and then he ripped it off again. But it's kind of just like my little joke. We're actually at the RNC, and we unhooked everything, and it was early in the morning, and apparently this is not where we checked in threes, so our mistake. We apparently checked once, and went to go pull away, and we ripped the tailgate right off. So, what am I at? Oops. All right, 1 second. So sometimes people kind of ask, you know, like, is there anything that we can do for you guys to help with horse acclimation and everything? We do a couple clinics. We do some at our facility. So we've got a nice indoor arena, and sometimes in the winter we just try to find things to do. It's not to say you're necessarily going to go out there and you're going to find like a line of fire to walk through, but again, it's just like finding different things to challenge your horse, like what's new. And the nice thing is with the clinics too, you know, you've got a variety of horses that they really work strong in groups. So one of the things we do is definitely clinics. For the Ohio Horse Council, we actually have one coming up this weekend. There's 3 chapters that are sponsoring it, but we go out to the polo fields, we'll do a clinic for them, and then if there's anything else that they, you know, request for us to do, we love to be able to do that. But it's great for us. So like if you have a barn, you have a facility, and you're like, I've got a couple, you know, like a nice group of people that want a clinic put on, you know, we've made things happen. We can travel, or again, we can bring people to our stable. It's nice sometimes because it kind of gets you out of that like rut of, well, I just have my barn, the horse sees all this stuff. Like, let them experience different things. That's definitely what helps us. We do our clinics rain or shine. Now, what I love is like I'm out in the rain somewhere, but like my officers are staying nice and dry under the tarp. So I might still help like with direction, get you through your clinic, even if these guys just leave me out there, you know, get soaked. But you know, we'll do everything possible to make these clinics fun. And we have different levels. Like, we're not going to say, hey, come bring your horse, and all of a sudden, like, we're shooting guns off. And no, it's nothing like that. We stage so many different obstacles so that we can hopefully make it a win for everybody. And if the horse doesn't do everything, it doesn't do everything. Who cares? Like, we just went down to Kentucky for a week long of training. And guess what? Like, the horses didn't do everything. But what they did do, we made sure that they were heavily rewarded for it. And we always ended on a positive note with them. And same thing with our clinics. Like, it's meant to be fun. It's not meant like for people to feel embarrassed or my horse doesn't do this or that. It's just, you know, again, like working on things to build that relationship. Just a little bit more like with us, as we do a little bit of community outreach and tours at our facility. We've got a really nice barn. If anyone doesn't know where we are, and if they'd ever want a tour, we're actually in North Royalton. And I might have contact information. If not, I have a card. But feel free, reach out. You can see our place. Lastly, and I think we have a couple people from the Ohio Horse Council here, right? So Ohio Horse Council, Big D's, we've been doing this beach ride. This is about to be our 8th year, and I know we have some people here that have done it. We've got amazing supporters. Both the Ohio Horse Council and Big D's basically took that leap of faith on us when I had nothing to say other than like, hey, we're doing some awesome beach ride, like jump in and be one of our sponsors. It's been great. The other amazing part about this, the networking between the equestrians that are out there. I mean, you make new friends, you have a great time, and it's just a different type of experience. So for those that haven't heard about it, you can definitely look it up or ask me questions. It's a phenomenal opportunity. It's something different. I've had a blast doing this. It, to me, it was one of those things where I just thought, like, what can we offer that's a little bit different than just riding on a trail? And, you know, the only thing I ask again is, like, just try to get that horse in a trailer before you show up to the beach ride, so that we don't have any issues. Our real heroes, we always have to make sure someone's picking up those toilet seats out there. So we had this, I think this was about 2 years ago, we had a heavy storm that came through, and everything was just getting washed up on the beach. And I have to laugh because of all pictures people would take. It's just my officer, but you know what? I mean, he's there to make sure people are happy and that they have a pleasant experience, and he definitely did. And
Can you imagine that getting stuck on the horse's foot?
Exactly, because it could happen. So I mean, at the end of the day, it's an extremely important job. And I was going to do it, but he saw it first, so and he had the gloves on. So the one thing I do kind of throw in there too is we have a number of horses that over time, you know, we're looking for nice homes for them. We retire them out. So I always tell people, if you're ever interested in a horse, we retired one out, but we brought a new one in. We try to find nice homes for them. Most of our horses that retire are usually under the age of 23. So we get them at a fairly decent age where we probably had them for 12, 14 years, sometimes even a little bit longer. They've got a great life. Our facility we're on 94 acres. Out of that, we have about 7 acres of pasture. They're very well cared for, extremely well treated and everything. But we always try to make sure, especially me, like I want our horses going to an amazing home after us because they deserve it. They've carried my ass around for like X amount of years and my officers, so I want to make sure that they get the best. So, you know, if you ever know anyone that's just like, hey, I'm looking for a little horse to do 4-H stuff with, or I'm looking for a horse to be a pasture pet to my other horse or whatever, you know, please let me know because we definitely try to make sure that they're just placed in an appropriate area and that they get that fairy tale ending that they really deserve. So our horses, honestly, they bust their butts for us. We've got an amazing herd right now. And what I really like to end with is what comes easy won't last, what lasts won't come easy. So again, like I said, there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that go into what you guys do. And when I decided to join the crazy side, I learned every bit and piece of it, and I'm thankful for it because I just have a much stronger appreciation for the horses. But, you know, to stay safe out there, you know, never forget, put the work into your horse because, I mean, it's just going to come back tenfold for you guys. So, it's my contact information. I'm sure that's a lot. Usually I talk forever, and there's times I'm up there for an hour and a half. I know you guys have an hour, and there's shopping and stuff you want to do. Is there any questions, anything that you guys want to ask about training or about our horses or just anything in general?
I just, the horse that went into shock on the beach, what was the physical, I noticed his head was
He completely froze. She completely froze. And at that point, like, we really didn't know what happened because I'm like, I didn't know if the horse just had like some type of aneurysm or something. It was the vet who, you know, came out and diagnosed that the horse went into shock. The horse essentially went through a lot of physical exercise prior to getting into the water, and between that and then the water temperature, the horse just completely locked up. So that's what occurred. Now, shortly after, because we started to get the horse out of water, and then it basically kind of brought itself out from shock, but I mean the horse didn't really have an opportunity to kind of like get adjusted to the water, so it literally just went into shock out there because it was further out, and everyone was able to bring the horse in. But once we started getting it onto the sand, the horse kind of just came out of it, and which was a huge win. And then I had a vet show up and assess the horse because I didn't want that horse getting into a trailer without being vet checked, and the owner was 100% like, yes, I agree with you, I understand. But that was good, and actually the horse was awesome and didn't end up on another beach ride of ours, but Not what I was expecting. But you know, things happen again. It comes back to like also just kind of knowing like your horse, and you know, and being careful and like looking for signs of, you know, being exerted and things. Yes.
It's happened to me more than once where another person on the trailer who's on the trail who's on foot with the dog will comment how I don't have to pick up my horse manure, but he or she has to pick up after.
I just ignore it. We get that. Trust me. I get that too. I know.
Do you do that?
Oh yeah. Because here's the thing too. At the end of the day, like we don't always just ride on bridle trails. Now we do try, and it's like it just depends. Like if my officers are responding, because I mean, we handle calls, we respond to things. If we hear like a medical emergency or there's some type of crime happening, and I mean, if the horses do whatever, I mean, but if we're in trailer parking lots and things like that, and we're able to pick up, we 100% do. But like on the trail, we get that, and it's just one of those like, have a nice day. You know, I
And
mean,
there's no movement to
there's
change
just
that.
no.
Oh.
No, but I do like. There was a time, and I mean, I'm really. Penny's awesome about making sure like things get shared. And there was someone that rode on a bridle trail, and I'm sorry, not a bridle trail, on an all-purpose trail. And like, I don't know if they weren't familiar with where they should be riding or not. But there was a huge pile of poop on there, and I'm like, look, this is just what we need to be careful about because I don't want people to complain about horses. We don't want to lose privileges. The person was actually not even on a bridle trail. And it definitely wasn't one of my, you know, officers. Like we even try to like step out, but like if we're Edgewater and things like that, there's just, I mean, there's no bridle trail, but we do like maintenance is really good about trying to come and clean up after us. But I mean, yeah, on the trail, I mean, it is what it is, and also like you're on a bridle trail. But yeah, when it comes to trailers, trailer parking lots and stuff, we do the same thing. We just try to make sure people clean up after themselves. But yeah, outside of that, no, just okay, have a nice day, bye. I mean, because it's not your problem. Like you're not the one that's gonna, you know, do any type of enforcement or anything like that. So, yeah.
I didn't know if there was a move then to change that. on
No.
the trail system.
No.
Two questions. The one you mentioned, like, can you go on your website and see if there are things open to the public, or are they
So,
all directed?
what we generally do, the Ohio Horse Council has an amazing Facebook page, and they are the ones that honestly will put like our clinics and stuff on there.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's generally like if there's something listed on there, yep, you can find it on there.
And then the second question. So we're, my daughter and I, after combined 60 years of waiting, got our first two horses that we've owned this summer. So we've leased, we've ridden a lot, but it's a whole different, as all of you know, it's a whole different mindset. And they're both very young, just turned 4 this summer. Both were pretty green to saddle. They're both able to ride trails, but you know, your flower picture says it all. I actually sing and talk really loudly to our more sensitive one, so she hears less.
Right.
But did any of you have tips about like the best way if they're acting weird around like someone walking a dog? Because you never want to hurt a dog, but you also don't want to go off.
Right. So I mean, for us,
any, you know, when
yeah.
you're out on the trail.
absolutely. You know, for us, it's not unusual. Like a lot of times, now we obviously know what horses are like phenomenal and which ones, you know, might
Yeah.
struggle a little bit.
Yeah.
So for us, there's nothing wrong with like stepping off the trail. But the one thing that we always do is we want the horse to watch. Now,
Okay.
this whether we do this with dogs, whether we do this when we're doing vehicles and things like that. After that person walks away, give them some space, but take the horse and let the horse follow behind. So it's the whole psychology of like something's not coming at the horse, but the horse is the one that's like in charge of following. So when we train, like we have a huge training ball. It's all to basically get them set up. Really for us, like the worst thing to do would be like turn your horse totally away from it. Let them see, you know, and then and I mean, I get it. Like there are some times, I mean, there's dogs that are gonna bark at them and everything. And that's kind of where, you know, often like we're just kind of polite that way. Like we'll step off the trail, let the person just pass us, because usually we're faster than them. But at the same time, there's nothing wrong with saying, hey, when you kind of get down the trail, like it's not that I'm like stalking you or anything.
Right,
Just my
like,
horse
let
isn't
them
used
know.
to dogs, and we're just gonna follow you for 30 seconds, a minute, and then and then get that win out of your horse. Let them know, like, hey, good boy, good girl, whatever the case is. But that's generally what we do, So, and it helps. I also have 2 civilians that bring their dogs to the barn, so like our horses are so used to, dogs running around amok and everything. But I mean, yeah, when people don't have that opportunity, but
It's really big, like,
Yep.
watch and follow.
and we do that with our horses have to be acclimated to vehicles and things like that. And we do the same thing. It's all this like psychology. So sometimes like even in the arena, we might have someone with a bag, And if we're dragging that bag and that horse loses his mind, someone will walk in the front of the bag, and then the horse will follow until the horse gets comfortable enough where all of a sudden they're still walking with the bag, but now the horse is going to pass that person until the bag is behind them, or whatever the item is. So, yeah. And after some time, I mean, it's usually nothing. Yes?
Mentioning about having an audience. How about the rider vest? Is that recommended?
So because of our bulletproof vests and like us already wearing those, we can't double it. Yeah, because that would definitely be like an issue. But for normal riders, I mean, definitely a lot of people, and I know there's quite a few people from the Ohio Horse Council that wear them. I mean, anything that's going to like better pack your lungs. You know, so number one, like with our vests, if I get kicked or if I fall or something, I mean, there is already some of that security there. I just can't put anything over that. But for riders, I mean, because here's the thing, you know, I recently had a rider that got injured, and I mean, it was still like the rib area. But the more that you can put on and be safe with, I mean, why not? You know, I mean, some people are just like, oh, I don't want to put all this crap on, it's too much. But, you know, personal choice, because I mean, again, it just takes like one thing to happen, and, you know, you're on the ground.
I have a follow-up question on
Yeah.
that, and maybe this is to those of you who have more experience than I do. The inflatable vests versus the solid vests, does anyone wear them? Does anyone have an opinion? I did trauma for a living for years on humans, and so I definitely know horsewomen are always my worst patients because they'll say a pain is a 2 out of 10 when anyone else would say a 20.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, you gotta search for injuries. It'd be terrible. But anyway, so I don't know if you're all cavalier and don't wear anything, if any of you do, and you have opinions about which is better.
Didn't you buy one?
Yeah, I do. I do have one.
Do you have the solid kind
Yeah.
or the glow?
Yeah, no, I didn't get the
Okay.
inflatable top because I don't know if that would scare the horse because it doesn't inflate until you land. I
Right.
believe.
I think
So-
they're kind of geared more towards hunter jumper.
Yes,
It's
yeah,
a
basically,
one-time.
basically, that's I think
Um,
most of those vests. That's where they come from. But eventers, I know the
Yeah.
eventers have to wear
Yeah.
vests.
So I didn't, but I have one because my friend Molly went for her ride in Coyote Valley, and her horse sniffed the back once.
Yeah.
I mean, same trail forever.
Yeah.
Horse she had like 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
She punctured a lung.
Yeah.
She was in the hospital. Then she was laid up for 6 months.
Yeah.
She went out and bought one of those inflatable vests. Happened again. 2 years later, she bounced.
Great. So it really saved her.
It really cushions like just
Yeah.
beside your ribs and your lungs, etc.
And having
She got up and walked away from it.
Yeah, and then having put in many chest tubes. Never having had
Yeah.
one. I'll tell you, you want to be the one putting it in, not getting one. They're horrible, and don't go there.
And then a couple of people with air impact, and they've all had one mouth.
Okay.
And like they've used it, like they fell off, and like I don't hear them saying, "Oh my horse went out." They're saying, "Oh my goodness, it saved me
Yeah.
awful injury." So
Yeah.
out of at least 3 people saying it's exploded on them.
Mhm.
Usefully.
People do it, the solid ones.
Easier to tether to it
Right.
to use.